Now, about 6 months ago, Nigeria's daily crude oil production hit 1.258 million barrels per day. But today, which it now stands at $92 per barrel, it underperforms at 1.1 million barrels per day. It is worthy of note that Nigeria is one of the world's largest oil-producing countries, and our main source of income is from the exploration and the sales of crude oil and its related products. But unfortunately, most of these products are being siphoned by vandals, making it very difficult to meet up the daily production quota, which has been allocated by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, the OPEC. Well, let's get straight into the conversation. But first of all, I would like to introduce my esteemed guest. Joining our gathering today, we have Suraj Oyewale, the FCA Director, Fortrose Consulting in Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Suraj, for joining us.
I'm happy to join you. Listen, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to have you join us as well. Also, we have Mr. Olufemi Lawson, Executive Director, Center for Public Accountability, CPA. Mr. Lawson, it's a pleasure to have you join us.
Good afternoon, Blessing.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure. All right, let's get into the conversation, gentlemen. I think we will start with the main or the major point of this whole situation. Why exactly are we still struggling with crude oil theft at this point in time? Mr. Suraj, do you want to go first?
Blessing, it's quite unfortunate. I remember granting a TV interview 11 years ago discussing this topic of crude theft. I feel so bad that in 2023, 11 years after that interview, we are still talking about crude theft. I mean, and even worse than what we actually did experience some 10 years ago. And it always speaks to the lack of I would say security infrastructure for Nigeria. If if we cannot get our facilities enough for us to be able to protect our oil assets, then I think that's a major problem for us. So I will pin it down to the government not being able to secure the oil facilities. Of course, we cannot. This does not exonerate the criminal cartel that brings us into this sorry state.
Okay, Olufemi, do you share the same opinion with Suraj?
Well, my view about it, as negative as it so much implies, not only on our economy, even on our environment and every other aspect, it's unfortunate that the government of Nigeria has not seen the issue of crude theft, which is not only affecting the growth of our economy today, but also impacting negatively on our environment, as an issue that ordinarily should be treated as an issue of national security and economic importance. Today, we keep talking about crude oil theft, just like we're talking about ordinary phone snatching and bag snatching in the common market in Nigeria. These are issues that have grievous implications on the economy, on the life of our people, and government year in, year out keep lamenting without coming out with any fundamental policy that seek to address and criminalize, in the real sense of it, the issue of crude theft in Nigeria. And that is why today the economy is being pushed to an edge where, of course, it is going to resort to another round of hardship for Nigerians, another round of borrowing for Nigerians. Of course, while we keep degrading our environment, because of the activities of crude oil thieves. But unfortunately, the state itself, from my own point of view, has not taken this serious enough. And I think the current realities should challenge the government to take very serious look into the issue of crude theft as it has affected us as a people and begin to take drastic steps.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Olufemi. Now, you did mention a salient point, and that is the issue of criminalizing the perpetrators of crude oil theft. And you also did mention that it seems to be as if that they're not taking that sector seriously enough. That will take us to my next point, Suraj. Do you think that there is no law on ground to criminalize or to punish the perpetrators of crude oil theft? Or is it that we're just not taking it seriously, just like Olufemi said?
I would say we are just not taking it seriously. There is enough in the Nigerian laws that we have at the moment to actually tackle this. But the government prefers to go the route of, maybe treating the whole matter with kid gloves. I remember some time ago, the last government, the government before the last actually did, try to make some efforts by awarding the Jonathan government awarded some contracts to some militants, from the Niger Delta, some leadership of the militia groups in the Niger Delta with a view to tackling this problem. But we still do not have some headway, despite the billions that have been pumped into the pipeline security contracts here and there. So I would think the government needs, of course, before then we had the government of Jonathan and of Ajara that also came up with the amnesty program. All of this with a view to resolving issues around protecting our pipeline infrastructure in the Niger Delta. But it does appear that this particular issue of crude theft, it does not appear to have a solution. The government does not. The government appears quite helpless on it, and I would think that we have sufficient in Nigerian law. If you build a pipeline, if you if it intercepts the vessel or whatever form of sabotage along the pipeline route, there is sufficient law to criminalize it. It just appears that the people who do this are so powerful and connected that they appear to be elusive of these laws.
All right, thank you for that, Suraj. Now, focusing also on the massive decline of the output of crude oil in Algeria. Now, Olufemi, the current high crude oil prices standing at $92 per barrel could have reduced the negative impact of low output on the nation, or so we were told. So does it now mean that the subsidy was actually removed for nothing? Because if the subsidy was removed to help us, produce better, export better, and at least have better output, and then the crude oil theft is having this much impact on our output, why exactly do we still need the subsidy removal?
Well, the leakages are many. If you recall that the subsidy, is part of the spending that the budget itself created, in the past. That is, it is part of what monies made from crude oil, sale by the country are spent on. So, of course, the removal of subsidy is not really having its, effect on whatever the implication of crude oil theft or reduction in our production quota as a country is, because the budget itself is built on the expectation from crude oil sales based on our ability to meet up with our production quota. But as we speak, even OPEC is worried, stakeholders are worried that we are not meeting up on our production quota. And this is not because these oil companies are not producing. It is because people are illegally, taking the crude oil, selling into the same market where ordinary Nigeria should have sold into and make money. So the fact that we have removed subsidy from, refined petroleum products, where part of the spend is captured in the budget, where we are expected to get money from the crude oil to service is coming from, is not going to have any impact on the economy. It's not going to be in any way enough to palliate whatever the implication of this continual theft of crude oil by oil thieves is imposing on the country. So we must majorly focus on how we can use the institutions that have been empowered to curb this kind of criminality to ensure that we stop, because our needs are not limited to subsidy. Our needs as a country are not limited to whatever fund will be spent on subsidy. The needs are enormous, ranging on infrastructures, healthcare, education, and some other things that monies made from the sales of crude oil will be spent to address. So the impact of this is even beyond what positive gain have we been able to make from the removal of fuel subsidy or not. It is grievous, it is more damaging, not only to a particular sector of the economy, but to most sector of the economy. And that is why I am of the opinion that this should be treated as a national emergency, and government must sit back, retreat, and call to duty those institutions that it has created to tackle crude oil theft. Today, if you look at what the National Security and Civil Defense Corps is established to do, part of the job should have been effectively combating theft, vandalization of our critical national infrastructure pipeline. We must begin to look at how we can empower such institutions, just like the current leadership of the Corps is doing, and other security agencies who are going to work, who are going to really take this mandate seriously and confront this as a major threat to our economic survival as a people. Otherwise, removal of subsidy or not, or every other measure being taken by the government to reduce spending without blocking those leakages will not save the economy or the country.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Olufemi. Now, I'd like to see from this perspective, the damage has been done, although we cannot say that there is an end just yet to crude oil theft. But the major concern on everyone's mind now is what options are available for Nigerians, because the country requires high streams of revenue to meet up with its high debt servicing. And of course, we need more output, but low production is what we're experiencing. So what options do we have available to us as a country now, Suraj?
First and foremost, I will look at it from both oil and non-oil angle. From the oil angle, I think beyond, you also need to realize that beyond the sabotage from the criminals that have been, attacking the oil assets, there's also the angle of low investment by investors in the oil and gas industry in the past few years due to pressure from energy transition and some other investment considerations by the financiers of, oil projects. So we probably need to find other means to encourage, the investors to come around, ramp up their production, get, even if some of them, I know that because of this crude theft, some of the investors might be a little bit jittery. Some of them might not want, because of this country-specific risk, they might not want to bring money in. But I think, the government and also, there could be some form of assurance that will more or less also, encourage investment, maybe some fiscal incentives by way of tax, some working around some tax incentives on all of those, which could actually encourage investment. Because, crude theft is not the only reason why we're having a low production. Absence of a significant new investment is also a major blow to us. So, I think if government finds ways of encouraging investment, maybe through fiscal incentives, that might also help to ramp up our production. But I also think this also presents an opportunity for us to look beyond oil as a country. We've been independent on oil for 5 decades, since mid-70s, and I think this is possibly an opportune moment for us to also review how things are done and see what are the opportunities we could have to ramp up our revenue. Even though we're still benchmarking our budget to oil, all of these things, I think we also need to move away from oil and explore other ways of revamping our, maybe some other non-oil resources that we have, and even human capital, and I think of course we probably also revamp our manufacturing sector so that we have things that we also export, so that we get some foreign exchange gain as well. So I believe that not just the oil part, but even from the non-oil, that we can actually bring things back to a better situation for Nigeria.
All right. Thanks for that, Suraj. Olufemi, do you have anything to add to that in terms of suggestion of the options that are available to Nigeria?
Yeah, the most viable, just like Suraj has said, is that we must begin to look at how we can diversify from this mono economy of crude oil to other areas that the country can really make more economic fortune from. Today, when you look at the list of mineral resources that the country is blessed with, which are being illegally exploited by people within this country, then you realize that we have more wealth to create for ourselves than what we are currently making from crude oil. The agricultural sector seems to be practically neglected. Of course, the solid mineral sector seems to be practically neglected, left in the hand of very few individuals making fortune out of it. So Nigeria must begin to look at how it can focus, as much as it is focusing on the crude oil, in other areas where we can begin to generate more money, rather than putting this pressure on the ordinary people to ensure that we are able to run the country. Secondly, we must look at how we can, because if you leave crude oil now and begin to move to other mineral resources because we need to generate more money, every sector, including the solid mineral sector, have saboteurs. So there will always be tendency for saboteurs in every sector where the government seek to make fortune as a country. So government must be serious about empowering the needed institutions that can safeguard the economy of this country. Because some of these issues are also national security, issues, and we cannot just sit back and people bring vessels into our waterways and steal crude oil and get away as if they have just stolen a mobile phone or a handbag. These are vessels that some are as large as the size of a village, and people just come and get away with that. So government must first and foremost demonstrate seriousness by ensuring that it imposes heavy punishment on perpetrators of crude oil theft and every other resources belonging to the country, while also empowering the institutions of government, particularly the security agencies, particularly those that have been mandated to safeguard our national security infrastructure. I know it is not going to be like the business for the police. We have the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps empowered by the law to face theft of sabotage of critical national infrastructure. How do we empower these institutions? How do we bring the Navy to utmost functionality? How do we weed out those negative characters who are also within the security agencies that are collaborating with these perpetrators of crude oil theft? So these are the issues that I think the government must focus on, rather than continuously lamenting about the inability to fund the budget and some other negativity as a result of crude oil theft and other national sabotage.
All right, thanks for that, Olufemi. Now, Suraj, we have described a situation that has deteriorated so bad that it now affects our output as a country. But in the over 60 years of crude oil exploration in this country, it didn't used to be this bad. Where exactly did we start to get it wrong?
It's actually always been in it's actually always been bad. Only that they actually got more and more emboldened, given given maybe the cooperation they've been getting from people who are meant to actually protect this whole, infrastructure. Because like I said earlier, 11 years ago, I was actually discussing this same topic on a TV channel, and quite unfortunately, we're still talking about it in 2023. And so it's got bad, started getting bad in the, I would say in the past 20 years, when the issues around Nigeria that initially started as genuine fight for emancipation of the people via environmental issues and all of those. So against environmental issues, unfortunately, the people that were meant to be the leaders of those activist groups, because of the some money they saw the money involved in it, and they became the some sort of aggressors rather than being freedom fighters for their people. So that was how the whole thing began. That was where the cause of the whole thing degenerated in the past 20 years. The likes of Kensawi, who many years ago was fighting for the causes of the people of Niger Delta. I was doing this thing genuinely for the environment, of the protection of the environment. But at some point, some criminals, started coming into the whole show, trying to, they started by saying they were trying to, fight against the exploitation of their resources by the people, by international oil companies, kidnapping their staff, and all of these things in mid-2000s. After that, they saw it as a money-making machine, no longer just, attacking the personnel of oil and gas companies, but now, breaking the pipeline. At some point, the whole thing, they began to cooperate with, they began to get the involvement of the security forces themselves who are meant to protect this asset, and even personnel of some of these oil companies and even government, agencies that are meant to, to work on all of these things, and even traditional communities. So that was how the whole thing became some sort of organized crime beyond what started as, a fight for the emancipation or some sort of, fighting for the rights of the communities.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a blessing.
All right, thank you so much for that, Suraj. That was a bit of history there. Thanks a lot for giving us the detailed explanation. Also, very quickly, Olufemi, and finally, we've talked about foreign direct investment on the show regarding the increment of our outputs. But if we are having foreign direct investment and these issues are not addressed, we've mentioned the fact that they don't take punitive measures when it comes to implementing punishments for those who perpetrate crude oil theft. So if these things are not tackled with the foreign direct investment, isn't it just going to be like pouring water into a basket? Will there be any change? Very quickly.
Seriously, no, it's great, it has a very great negative implication on investors' confidence. People are really losing confidence in investing in an economy where there's no economic security, where, of course, their investment is not even secure. If you look at the oil sector today, a lot of players are pulling out because of the inability to protect their investor. You remember that these thefts are perpetrated mostly using the infrastructures belonging to the major, oil giants in the Niger Delta. So it's a big issue for us. It's created a total loss of confidence in our country as a destination for FDI. And that is one of the reasons why I think government must see this as a national emergency rather than the way we gently talk about it. We must begin to let people, especially investors, understand that their investment is secure. There's economic security for their investment to the extent that every perpetrator of evil against investment owned by Nigeria or foreign investors are going to be made to face the wrath of the law. Until we begin to do that as a country, we continue to have loss in confidence. FDI continue to reduce, and on the long run, Nigeria will have to, pay for it. We have to lose on the long run. So we must begin to take this seriously more than the government is currently doing, and I think that is the way out of this.
It's been an absolute pleasure having this conversation with these professionals in their field. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Suraj Oyewale, FCA Director, Fortrose Consulting, Lagos. It's been a pleasure. Also, Olufemi Lawson, Executive Director, Center for Public Accountability, CPA. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Blessing.
Thank you, Blessing.